Welcome to our deep dive. We're going to unpack something truly groundbreaking in cancer treatment. It's called Brentuximab vedotin. And if you're fascinated by cutting-edge science, the kind that has the power to actually change lives, well, this deep dive is for you.
Yeah,
We're going to see how clever drug design can target very specific cells, almost like creating a guided missile.
yeah. What's particularly interesting here is that brentuximab is part of a new wave of treatments,
Mhm.
really revolutionizing how we approach cancer.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. What exactly is Brentuximab vedotin?
Brentuximab is what we call an antibody-drug conjugate, or ADC for short. And it's a very elegant solution. It combines the targeting ability of an antibody with the cell-killing power of a cytotoxic drug.
So it's like two weapons in one.
Precisely. The antibody part acts like a homing beacon. It seeks out and attaches to a specific protein. It's called CD30. And this protein is found on certain lymphoma cells. The drug part, we call it MMAE, is the payload. It's what does the damage to the cancer cell.
And now I'm curious, why go through all this trouble? Why not just use traditional chemotherapy?
That's a great question. You see, traditional chemo is like using a shotgun. It attacks a wide range of cells, including healthy ones, and that, of course, leads to all those nasty side effects. With ADCs like brentuximab, we're using a scalpel, not a shotgun. We can target the treatment directly to the cancerous cells, minimizing damage to the surrounding healthy tissue.
Okay, so that's going to be a game changer for patients, right?
Absolutely.
Less collateral damage means a better quality of life while they're going through treatment. So we've got this antibody that seeks out CD30. What types of cancers actually have this CD30 protein on their surface?
Primarily, we see CD30 expression in certain types of lymphoma,
Wow.
specifically Hodgkin lymphoma and systemic anaplastic large cell lymphoma, or ALCL for short. These are cancers that affect the lymphatic system, which is a vital part of your immune system.
Okay, the lymphatic system. I vaguely remember that from biology class. Maybe you could give us a quick refresher. What does it do?
Sure. Think of your lymphatic system as a network of vessels and nodes. It acts like a drainage system for your body, removing waste and toxins. It also houses immune cells that help fight infections. And lymphoma occurs when cells in this system start to multiply uncontrollably.
So in these specific lymphomas, the cancerous cells have this CD30 protein, which makes them a perfect target for brentuximab.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. But how does it actually work on a cellular level? It sounds incredibly complex.
It is a fascinating process. So picture this. Brentuximab, with its antibody beacon, latches onto the CD30 protein on the lymphoma cell.
Okay, first step, target locked. What happens next?
The cancer cell, totally unaware of the danger, actually engulfs the brentuximab, taking it inside.
Hmm.
Cells do this all the time. It's a normal process of taking in substances from their surroundings.
So the cancer cell unknowingly welcomes its own destruction. That's a pretty clever strategy.
Indeed. Once inside the cell, the bond between the antibody and the drug breaks down, releasing the MMAE. Now, MMAE is designed to interfere with the cell's ability to divide and grow.
So it stops those cancer cells from multiplying. How does it actually do that?
It targets something called microtubules. Now, microtubules are like the scaffolding that gives a cell its structure and allows it to divide. MMAE disrupts this scaffolding, causing the cell to essentially fall apart and die.
Wow. It's incredible how scientists have managed to target such specific mechanisms within the cell. But wouldn't this drug also harm healthy cells that need microtubules to function?
That's the beauty of this targeted approach.
Hmm.
Because the antibody only binds to cells with CD30, the MMAE is primarily released inside the cancerous lymphoma cells, sparing most healthy cells.
Okay, that makes sense. So less damage to healthy cells would translate to fewer side effects for the patient. So it sounds like brentuximab is a real breakthrough in treating these types of lymphoma.
Absolutely. In fact, it's been so successful that its use has expanded beyond just a last resort.
What do you mean by that?
Well, initially, brentuximab was primarily used for patients whose lymphoma had returned after other treatments failed. But now it's actually being incorporated into initial treatment regimens for certain patients.
So instead of waiting for other treatments to fail, they're using brentuximab up front? That's pretty amazing. What led to that shift?
It was a combination of factors. Clinical trials showed that using brentuximab earlier could improve outcomes and reduce the need for more toxic chemotherapy drugs.
Wow.
This was a big win for patients, as it meant they could potentially avoid some of the harsher side effects associated with traditional chemo.
It sounds like brentuximab is really changing the game for people with Hodgkin lymphoma and SALCL. Now, before we move on, I want to touch on something I found really intriguing while researching this topic. biosimilars.
Ah, yes. Biosimilars. They're essentially very close copies of the original biologic drugs, and they have the potential to revolutionize access to these life-saving treatments.
So they're like generic versions of complex biologic drugs like brentuximab.
That's a good way to think about it. A biosimilar of brentuximab would have the same structure and function as the original, but might be produced using a slightly different manufacturing process.
The key thing is they have the potential to be much more affordable than the original drugs.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Making these treatments more accessible could change so many lives. Now, what about Assays Genie? What's their role in all of this?
Assays Genie is actually developing a biosimilar of brentuximab, but it's important to note that this is specifically for research purposes.
So their biosimilar isn't intended for treating patients directly?
Correct. It's being developed as a tool for researchers to further explore brentuximab's potential and potentially develop even better treatments in the future.
That's fascinating. Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. We've learned what brentuximab is, how it works its magic at a cellular level, and the incredible impact it's having on lymphoma treatment. But there's still so much more to explore. Indeed. In the next part, we'll delve deeper into the specifics of how brentuximab is used in the clinic for both Hodgkin lymphoma and ALCL.
So stay tuned. We'll be back soon to uncover even more about this revolutionary treatment.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Brentuximab vedotin.
You know, when I first learned about this drug, I was blown away by how precisely it can target those cancer cells.
Yeah.
Like it was plucked straight out of a science fiction novel.
It really is remarkable how far we've come in developing these targeted therapies. And brentuximab's success in treating Hodgkin lymphoma and SALCL is a testament to that progress.
Right. Last time we talked about how it works at a molecular level,
Right.
using that antibody to deliver a potent cell-killing drug directly to those CD30-expressing lymphoma cells.
Exactly.
And as we touched on, its use has evolved significantly since it was first introduced.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
gone from being a salvage therapy, used when other options had been exhausted,
Right.
to becoming a key player in frontline treatment regimens.
Absolutely.
That's a huge leap. I'm curious, what were the key factors that drove this shift? What made doctors and researchers realize that brentuximab could be even more effective when used earlier in the course of treatment?
That's a great question, and it really boils down to the results of clinical trials.
Okay.
Researchers started testing brentuximab in combination with standard chemotherapy regimens for newly diagnosed Hodgkin lymphoma, and the results were striking.
Wow.
They found that this combination not only improved overall survival rates, but also reduced the risk of the disease returning.
So using brentuximab upfront alongside chemo gave patients a better shot at beating the disease and staying in remission.
Exactly. These findings were a game changer. They provided strong evidence that brentuximab wasn't just a last resort. It was a powerful tool that could be used proactively to improve outcomes from the very beginning of treatment.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like taking a proactive approach to fighting the disease rather than waiting for it to gain a foothold. Now, I want to get a clear picture of how this actually plays out in the real world. Can you walk me through what a patient's journey might look like when treated with brentuximab, both in the earlier and later stages of lymphoma?
Sure. Let's imagine a patient who has just been diagnosed with Hodgkin lymphoma.
Yeah.
In the past, the standard of care would have involved a combination of chemotherapy drugs, often with a pretty intense regimen that could cause significant side effects.
And a chemo can be really tough on the body.
Yeah,
It's like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut.
that's a good analogy. But now with brentuximab in the mix, doctors have more options.
Okay.
For some patients, brentuximab may be added to the initial chemotherapy regimen, potentially allowing for lower doses of the traditional chemo drugs and reducing the severity of side effects. This can make a world of difference in a patient's quality of life during treatment.
That's incredible. It's like fine-tuning the treatment to be more targeted and less toxic. Now, what about patients who are further along in their lymphoma journey, those who have already tried other treatments? How does brentuximab fit into their care?
Brentuximab has been a beacon of hope for these patients. For those who have relapsed or haven't responded well to other treatments, brentuximab offers a chance to regain control of their disease. It's often used as a single agent in these cases, and it's shown remarkable effectiveness in shrinking tumors and extending survival.
Oh, it's like a lifeline for patients who have run out of other options. It gives them another shot at fighting back against the disease.
Precisely. It's really been a paradigm shift in how we approach lymphoma treatment. And the research doesn't stop there. Scientists are continually exploring new ways to use brentuximab and develop even more effective ADCs.
That's what I love about science.
Yeah.
There's always a drive to push the boundaries and find better solutions. What are some of the most exciting avenues of research in this field right now?
One area that holds immense promise is combining brentuximab with other therapies.
Okay.
Researchers are experimenting with different combinations, pairing it with other chemotherapy drugs, immunotherapy agents, and even other targeted therapies that work through different mechanisms.
So it's like assembling a team of superheroes, each with their unique powers, to fight against the cancer.
That's a great way to think about it. These combination therapies are designed to attack the cancer from multiple angles, increasing the chances of success and minimizing the risk of resistance developing.
So it's about outsmarting the cancer by hitting it with a multi-pronged attack.
Exactly. And another exciting area of research involves extending the use of brentuximab to other types of cancer. While it's currently approved for Hodgkin lymphoma and ALCL, there are ongoing clinical trials investigating its potential in other cancers that express CD30.
So brentuximab could potentially become a weapon in the fight against a wider range of cancers. That's incredible. But with all these powerful new therapies emerging, it's important to remember that there are also ethical considerations that need to be addressed.
You're absolutely right. As we develop these increasingly sophisticated treatments, we need to be mindful of ensuring equitable access for all patients.
Especially since these cutting-edge therapies can be incredibly expensive.
That's a crucial point. The cost of these treatments can create a significant barrier, and we need to find ways to make them more affordable and accessible to everyone who needs them.
I couldn't agree more. It's about ensuring that everyone, regardless of their financial situation, has a fair chance of benefiting from these life-saving treatments. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, biosimilars.
Yes, biosimilars. They have the potential to play a key role in addressing those access and affordability issues we just discussed.
Exactly. Can you remind us about the role that Assay's Genie is playing in the development of biosimilars and why that's so important?
Absolutely. Assay's Genie is developing a biosimilar of brentuximab. But as I mentioned earlier, it's for research purposes only. This biosimilar isn't intended for treating patients directly, at least not yet. But it serves as a vital tool for researchers to further explore brentuximab's potential and potentially pave the way for more affordable versions of the drug down the line.
So it's like laying the groundwork for a future where these groundbreaking treatments are within reach for more patients. That's a really powerful thought.
It is, and it speaks to the broader mission of making scientific progress accessible to everyone.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive. We've seen how brentuximab is transforming the treatment landscape for certain types of lymphoma, and we've explored the exciting possibilities that lie ahead in the world of targeted cancer therapy.
It's been a fascinating journey so far, and in the next part, we'll wrap things up by delving into some of the broader ethical considerations surrounding these advanced therapies, along with some thought-provoking questions about the future of cancer care.
Sounds like a perfect way to end our deep dive. We'll see you back here soon for the final part. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into brentuximab vedotin.
It's been a fascinating journey exploring this groundbreaking treatment, hasn't it?
It really has. We've delved into its intricate mechanism of action. We've witnessed its remarkable impact on lymphoma treatment.
Yeah.
We even peeked into the future of antibody drug conjugates.
Yeah.
It's amazing to think that just a few decades ago, treatments like this were purely in the realm of science fiction, and now they're changing lives every day.
Absolutely. But as with any powerful advancement, especially one that touches on something as fundamental as human biology, there are always ethical considerations that we need to grapple with.
Yeah, you're right. It's like we're opening up a whole new toolbox for manipulating the very building blocks of life. And with that power comes responsibility.
Exactly.
Use it wisely and ethically.
Precisely. And one of the most pressing ethical issues surrounding these advanced therapies is the question of access. We've touched on this before, but it's such a crucial point that it bears repeating.
I agree. It's fantastic that we're developing these incredible treatments, but what good are they if they're only available to a select few?
Right.
The high cost of these therapies can create a real healthcare divide where access is determined by financial resources rather than medical need.
It's a deeply concerning issue. We need to find ways to make these life-saving treatments more affordable and accessible to everyone who needs them, regardless of their financial situation. And that's going to require a multifaceted approach involving Policymakers, pharmaceutical companies, and healthcare providers.
Absolutely. We need to explore all options, from government subsidies and insurance reforms to innovative pricing models.
Hmm.
It's about ensuring that everyone has a fair shot at receiving the best possible care. Now, while we work towards a future where cost is no longer a barrier, we also need to be mindful of the potential long-term effects of these treatments. While targeted therapies like Brentuximab are designed to minimize damage to healthy cells, we're still in the early stages of understanding their long-term safety profile.
That's a really important point. It's like we're pioneers venturing into uncharted territory. We're seeing amazing results in the short term, but we need to be vigilant about monitoring for any potential long-term consequences.
Yeah.
Ongoing research and long-term follow-up of patients who receive these treatments are crucial. We need to make sure that the benefits continue to outweigh any potential risks down the line.
Right. And that brings up another ethical consideration that we need to be mindful of: the potential for unintended consequences. When we're dealing with these complex biological systems, it's impossible to predict every possible outcome.
It's a bit like the butterfly effect, isn't it? A small change in one part of the system can have ripple effects that we may not fully anticipate.
Right. For example, could these targeted therapies inadvertently disrupt other important cellular processes, leading to unexpected side effects further down the road?
It's a valid concern, and it highlights the need for continued research and a deep understanding of the intricate web of interactions within the human body.
Yeah, we need to approach these powerful new tools with a healthy dose of humility, recognizing that our knowledge is constantly evolving.
Absolutely. Science is a journey of discovery, and we must always be open to revising our understanding as we learn more.
So while we celebrate the tremendous progress being made in targeted cancer therapy, we also need to engage in thoughtful and ongoing dialogue about the ethical implications.
I wholeheartedly agree. These are complex issues that require collaborative solutions involving scientists, clinicians, policymakers, patients, and the public at large.
It's not just about pushing the boundaries of scientific innovation. It's about ensuring that these advancements are used responsibly and ethically for the benefit of all humanity.
Well said. As we conclude our deep dive into the world of Brentuximab vedotin, I want to leave our listeners with a question to ponder. As these targeted therapies become increasingly sophisticated and personalized, what role should patients play in making treatment decisions?
That's a great question to leave everyone with. It really gets at the heart of patient autonomy and shared decision-making in healthcare.
Exactly. As we gain a deeper understanding of individual genetic profiles and disease subtypes, treatment decisions will become increasingly complex. Patients need to be empowered with the knowledge and resources to actively participate in those decisions, working in partnership with their healthcare providers.
It's a shift away from a paternalistic model of medicine where doctors dictate treatment towards a more collaborative approach.
Absolutely. And that requires open communication, trust, and a shared understanding of the risks and benefits of different treatment options.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Brentuximab vedotin. We've explored its mechanisms, its impact, and even touched upon some ethical considerations surrounding its use.
It was a pleasure diving deep with you.
To all our listeners, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.